Hey, how are you? I'm good. You didn't get that cold that's been there, did you?
Hopefully I won't. Now that you mentioned it. Is it different from the usual cold? What's the...
Yeah, it's just bad. Really strong.
Oh, hopefully not. It's usually my kids give it to me. And I work with kids in home health, and no, they don't get sick easily. But it's my kids that bring it at home.
My husband brought it home on Friday. He actually left work early. And so I took care of him, took care of my younger son. My older son had it for less than 24 hours. And then
You're the last one.
Yeah.
That's always the mom.
And then I always use my voice when I get sick. And so it's like, you can hear me.
Don't do that. Yeah, my kids are the ones that they're germ carriers, that's what I call them. But we have a rule at home, when they get home, they wash their hands and they change their clothes. But they can't hang around the house with their school clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I get so mad when I see them and they still haven't changed.
That's a good rule to have. That's where a lot of it comes from.
Because they sit on the floor at school, and I don't like that. I've seen them. I observe how my kids are at school when on their first day, or like I just come and visit. And they sit on the floor, and it's very
Yeah.
and then they're rolling here, and I'm like,
Wash!
Yes. So we'll see what it takes
I'm gonna bring it up after the forward transfer. Okay.
How about you?
Yeah.
All right, how about yourself?
I'm doing
It depends on what's on there. Probably not. But I'll take a look at it and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
All right. You're welcome.
So I don't understand what you said, is this is a handout, is this something you want to
I can, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna put it on the Google Drive. That way, I'm gonna put a link on the screen, that way when people, when they look at it, go back and review it, they have access to the drive. Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's all you need?
Yeah, that's all I need.
Oh, I like, so in other words, when this goes out to people, there's a video link that they can see on the hard
Right.
How's everybody? Busy. I was out for a couple days, so.
There's Miss IT person. Carl's here.
Hello, hello. Let's go there. How are you?
People are here.
Rice cake.
I want. Oh, would you mind handing these out? Just put one by every
Low blood
place.
sugar. If you got a low rice cake. Spice it up. Jay.
I didn't ask you to hand these things out.
I don't
I'm
know
glad.
if there's jelly.
You're grateful.
Might be asking too much.
I had salad today instead of my typical today.
Good for you.
You want a cookie for
She just had a salad. You're
Just
offering
had
her a
salad.
cookie?
Pretty
I
tempting.
I miss it the way it's done.
You know what? I'm gonna run out and, do I need it? I'm getting to the age where I have reading glasses now. And my stuff is small. I think I'll be fine. I'll do them in Braille here one year.
It just happened in November.
Oh, that's nice.
What, reading glasses?
Oh, I've had like 2010, my whole life.
Really?
Both eyes, yeah, perfect. And then I couldn't read the little S on the penny, you know where it was minty. And I'm looking at my girlfriend, I'm like, hey, hand me your readers. And I put them on. I was like, came out clear, you
Yeah.
know.
I've just started using some other glasses for close work, and I'm so surprised at how fun it is to read stuff really well. 2 minutes. Oh, no.
I have a.
Thank you. I just look at this, and the good news is I typed it, so I probably knew what it says.
I leave them in my bag so when I wear my contacts.
Oh, that's a good plan. And where's the points?
Next.
Oh, it's the last one. This does make me go blind, but that's okay. So did you updated this recently, more recently than the 1st of March, right?
Oh, dang it, I updated the time, not the date.
I can set that to automatically update every time you go online, if you like. So it literally has the most
Hey,
up-to-date
Willie,
times.
Yep.
1 minute.
Today.
Today, yep.
Yeah,
the front
today.
page, Yeah.
It's a simple formula.
What's up, fellow Excel friend?
Okay, up until a couple weeks ago when Carla sent me her Excel sheet that was pre-summed.
You were not. No, you weren't. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Yep.
So what, did you at least like ping keyed or were you like using your iPhone? Oh, the struggle is real.
Transparent.
Thank God you sent it to me.
Well, and then, yeah, and then Billy was trying to help me auto summit. And he was like deleting like a whole row worth of points, and I'm sitting in my chair like, just stop touching it. I'll continue to summit by myself on my calculator. But he ended up getting it some for me, and not deleting everything.
I can't believe you're manually doing it.
Robin has been manually doing it too. That's how she showed me.
Coming next, you guys on.
All right. I'm not eating today, so.
I don't have a problem with it. Only when you eat and don't share.
Because every time.
Okay.
All righty, we'll get started. Yeah, which one get first?
Help it over circle or help it over? No. It wasn't mine. No.
So, I wonder if we're live already. Amanda, do you think we're live, or are we live? Did Russell make us live?
He did not like say he did, but I'm assuming if he left, he did.
Okay,
That'd be my assumption.
we're live, yay. Okay, we have to watch what we say. We are live, and Russell is supposedly taking this event, and it's supposed to be state-of-the-art broadcast. So we have to, like I said, be careful what we say. And furthermore, all of our handouts will be a link online, so everybody that watches, and we do have people watching in the valley and in the peninsula, they will be able to see our handouts, which is pretty cool too. Okay, so hello around the room. How many prospect calls did you make in 1 week around the room, Amanda?
At least 5.
5. Carl, in 1 week.
I've made 7 so far this week and 4 last week.
11.
0.
0. Is that what I heard? Any particular reason? Oh, you can, I guess you can't talk too soon. That's a great excuse. At least she's honest. At least she's honest. Honest is good. Well, sure, nobody would, why would anybody lie here?
I didn't make lots, but I did emails on my daughter's ballet class.
On the ballet?
Yeah,
What'd you say in your email?
that I'm starting a new career with Jeff White, and if you or anyone you know of are thinking about buying and selling real estate, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Well, the good news about ballet parents is they actually have money, because it costs money to have kids in class. They may not have money to buy a house because of the class. And I would know that.
Yeah,
Well, that's good, that's good. Any responses yet?
I did get a response.
Yes, what happened?
Yeah, they said, oh, I'll spread to my family and I let you know. So,
Wow.
well, we're like close knit. Because I don't know anyone, and I thought, oh, I don't really like to, but I have to. And they're the only people I know in Alaska.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. So
Try to get their phone number so you can call
I
them.
do have their phone number.
You have to, okay, so next week you'll have to call some of them?
I don't know. I'm kind of shy. But I will try. See, I'm already red.
They can see that on the phone though.
Yeah, that's.
Shy people finish last. You got to call. Do you know what you're going to say?
I will invite them to the Jack White hockey.
Well, that's already past, that's past due.
Do you have tickets already? Do
You have tickets
Yes.
already?
Oh, you have tickets already, okay.
There you go. There you go. You have something to offer.
Sure.
That's lovely. Good job. Good job. Wait, how many people did you call?
6.
Yay. Sir?
4.
4? Sir? 5. Jocelyn?
I didn't call any. I know, but I went to Vegas.
You travel way too much. Did you sell any houses in Las Vegas?
I didn't sell any houses, but I did run into some old friends. I saw Mike Rasmussen. And so we talked about business. So yeah, I was ready off that trip.
Oh. Well, you can catch up this week with your calls.
That sounds great.
Billy, how many did you call in this past week?
15.
Yay. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? That's their job. These people have a daily goal of calls to make.
Now,
Yes, sir?
that is the amount of people I called, not how many times we talked.
Oh, no, you got to talk to them. Talking
No,
is.
no, but that's,
We talk to them more.
I talked to each one of those 15 people 2, 3 times. And so I'm not counting each individual phone call, each individual time
Okay.
that I talked to them. That's just 15 people.
Okay, that's reasonable. Was it hard to do that?
No.
How come?
So far, almost everybody that I'm working with, I kind of know.
Okay, that's good, that's good.
And so what I'm able to, I've got a squad member, Cordell. I said, I know you're getting married in August, so you're going to be hearing from me about a house. I said, well, I'm actually looking for
Do
a
you
house.
love that?
And I said, okay. I mean, just the standard stuff. Are you paying cash or are you getting a new loan? Are you working with a loan originator? Well, I'm going to have a friend of mine named Joe Hagedis call you and yeah,
Fearless.
Hagedis.
Is it Hagedis or Hegedis?
Okay.
I've been saying it wrong forever.
It's a-
You have it right.
Wait, you say it again?
Hegedis?
That's where the D came from.
But it's Hagedis.
It's a soft G then?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
H-E-G-E-D.
US.
Yeah. I thought, oh my gosh.
No G.
I must have, yeah, I know. I must apologize to him. Okay, let's do points really quickly. Our winning team is Lisa's team with 1,077 points. And that's fine. Paul Lambert's with 512 points is our lead on that team. And then Aaron with 224 points is our lead with 120 prospect calls. Wow. Our second place team is Carla's team. The high point getter is John Wilson, 470 points, 377 prospect calls, and Kathy with 50 prospect calls. And then our third place team is Jocelyn. She went to Las Vegas, so they dropped the
Did not
ball
turn
on
my
the
point.
team.
I know.
And the high point getter on that team is,
Did Kelly pass me up yet?
No, it's still Jocelyn.
No.
it's Kelly.
Kelly's been on vacation.
Oh, Jocelyn, you're still the high point getter.
Still a high point getter.
Business cards, 115, outstanding. So are these calls and these business cards, are they actually making a difference in your production, people?
I think so. I think what's holding at least myself up is lending seems to be a lot more stringent. I don't know. I feel like, and then I feel like even deals that I have in are taking longer to close.
We are putting 60-day closings on our contracts
I'm
now.
with Sydney at 60-day closing right now.
Yeah.
That's mostly facilities.
When people ask us how long does it take to close, between 45 and 60 days, plan on 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So, but other than that, is anybody, any quick success stories from these phone calls? Yes, sir.
One client that I met on my very first open house had come through. I sent her a few emails and then got back in touch with her this last week, and she immediately wanted to go look at a couple listings. So got her signed and went and showed her. So I think we'll probably put an offer in on one of them this week.
When you say you got her signed, what did she sign?
Buyer's reference.
Yes! Man, my God, you know that how rare that is that realtors will do that? I'm so impressed.
I kind of treated it as it was just a matter of course.
Yes.
And that's the way she responded. So
Oh, isn't that beautiful? How simple that was? Oh my gosh.
it was too simple. I was waiting for there to be some sort of catch. but
Pushback.
Yeah, exactly.
I am so proud of you. That's
Thanks.
great. So many realtors just simply don't do that unless you're shooting yourself in the foot, as we know. Yes, ma'am?
I have a simple story. I showed this gal and her husband 21 homes. I emailed them over 40 CCRs, and they finally picked a house last Sunday. We couldn't offer in, and they countered, and we rejected it. We saw a house the same day we rejected it, put another offer in, and went, okay.
How about a round of applause? Tell me where that business came from.
Another,
What does that mean?
it came from another the license, they didn't want to drive out to Palmer.
Oh, wow. So this house is in Palmer then? Okay, yeah, the paychecks look the same, doesn't matter where they are, right? Any other success stories?
I have someone, it's not from calling or prospecting, but for the newbies at the table, which is like most of yours, for Willie and Kathy. There are realtors out there who will try to get you to reduce your commission. Remember we talked about this last week, and you said absolutely not, you won't reduce. Well, these realtors will try and try again, and this one even told me, well, it's just going to default, and it's going to be, your fault basically for not giving up this commission. And I said, well, my client will probably sue you for specific performance, and because it was of no fault to my client. And the realtor immediately came back and said, we got it all figured out. I was like, and so, but if I wasn't
firm. Thanks for that story.
And because he wanted to change the home inspector to a different home inspector because his seller didn't want to pay $150 for the re-inspection because he thought it was too high. And I said, well, your client wouldn't have had to pay for any if the repairs were done right the first time, which they weren't. He said, well, I don't understand why this has to be done. I said, because he said it was like considered in the home inspection. I said, but the repair amendment asked for it to be done. It wasn't considered, it needed to be done. He goes, oh, I guess you're right. Yeah. So just letting you know, you stick to your guns and you say, no, this is the way it's going to be. And I even called and talked to Gabe, and he said, well, he's on a team. And he's like, you can call the team lead. And I was going to do that yesterday when I came back from Vegas. I just didn't want to deal with it while I was there. But no, he came back and he said, no, we got it all taken care of.
Who is this difficult realtor?
We're not necessarily supposed to badmouth specific names.
Was it a Keller Williams license?
It was a person on the largest team in Alaska.
Okay, I know.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have a success story, but I have a question. How do you handle a client that wants your help, selling FSBO, wants your help, but they don't want to sign ERIC?
Oh, well, you can't help them.
What I did is
Kiss them goodbye.
she freaked out when I put that refuse to sign on the bottom.
Oh.
Because, that's what I was told.
Yeah.
Remember, if they refuse,
Yeah.
you have to know time, date. And when I did that, she freaked out. Or in writing, I said, well, I have to do this so I have a record that you refuse to sign. And I can't leave you all these forms. I'm going to go leave. So I got, but I don't want to. Next time, I want like opinions on how to handle this kind of situation.
In other words, how to help a buyer that wants to buy or for sale by owner property?
No, it's actually she's my neighbor, and she's selling her property for sale by the owner.
Oh.
But then she was like, can you help me find a buyer? At first, it was like this: can you help me find a buyer? I said, are you willing to pay for commission? No. And then a few weeks later, she said, I told her, well, do you need help with forms? And then she said, no, I don't. And then a few weeks later, 3 weeks after, she said, oh, can you help me with the forms? So I brought all my stuff, and I had Jed walk me for all the stuff I need. So there's still the ERIC. And then so when we get to the ERIC part, she freaked out, I'm not signing anything. And I said, well, this is not a contract. It's just a disclosure that I'm doing specific assistance. I'm not representing you as a seller. But then she freaked out. She doesn't want to sign it.
So how'd you leave it?
In my mind, you did the right thing.
Yeah. How did you?
They didn't understand. The client didn't really understand what.
Well, that's an interesting point. Maybe you could have left the AREC with her to review, and when she's willing to sign it, you'll come back. That's a good idea.
She said, I'm not signing anything, even if it's not a contract.
Well,
Okay.
when you,
She
the last
already
thing
know
that you
that.
said is that it was representing. How do you word
No, I
that?
said
She says not, she
Assisting.
said it was not representation of
Specific assistance.
Only assisting.
specific assistance. And I told her to read it. She said, but I'm not signing anything.
So you were actually willing then to say would not sign, and she didn't want to sign that either?
No, she didn't even want to initial it.
Oh my gosh.
But, and then this is not a first time home buyer. She owns a lot of houses. She just didn't want to,
She just wants something for nothing.
yeah. She just
And our
wants to-
time is way too valuable for that. There's a lot of other clients that would be happy to pay you for your time.
Yeah.
So how's your friendship with her?
I don't know.
Probably strange, but do we care?
Yeah, but my conscience is clear. I'm not-
Very good. I agree. You did everything right. You were very professional.
I was just doing what I'm supposed to do, that I need that Eric
Yeah.
before giving her specific assistance.
And and Gabe has said this more than once. I mean, the truth is, using the higher authority is a good idea. I'm not able to really assist you until you are willing to authorize this disclosure. This is the policy of Jack White Real Estate, and this is what our broker requires. So sometimes if we put it up to a higher level, it's not you requiring it, it's somebody else requiring it. So that might make a difference. Anyway, okay, let's move on to any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, let's go on to win-win negotiations. In real estate, not unlike life, win-win negotiations are successful negotiations. You all know what I'm talking about. In a win-win negotiation, there's not a loser, actually. It's not 50-50 necessarily. Maybe one party got 40% of what they wanted and one party got 60% of what they wanted. But in a win-win negotiation, everybody gets something they want. Real estate's like that. People are going to be unhappy and there will be lawsuits in win-lose negotiations, and there's very few win-lose negotiations in real estate. Buying or selling a home is a big deal. It's likely one of the most important decisions a person will make in their lifetime. The parties to the transaction each need to feel they came away with something of value. So I wanted to talk about preparation for negotiating through an offer presentation to your seller client. Raise your hand if you've had to already negotiate through an offer presentation for your seller client. Jocelyn, yes? Okay. Of course, we've done that. All right, let's talk about that. Obviously, you're going to review the offer and prepare a net sheet. Does anybody not know what a net sheet is? A net sheet? Okay, a net sheet is a document that in a perfect world, at the time you took the listing, you show the seller what they would likely net from the sale of the home. You take the potential selling price and you subtract from that the commission, the normal seller's cost to sell, and the potential of the fact that most buyers in our market are going to ask the seller to assist them with closing costs. So you've got the commission, the normal seller's cost, the potential for buyers' request for concessions, and you subtract from that the loan balance. Okay, that's your net sheet. You should never take a listing without doing a net sheet. And then when you do a net sheet, Jocelyn, what do you do with the net sheet?
Actually, what? Oh, you haven't signed it then.
And Amanda, have them sign the net sheet so that you can show them later they saw those numbers.
Well, that's not the next thing I do.
What would you do?
Well, like, I do a net sheet and then I have the mortgage company do a net sheet. I make sure that we're comparable.
Sure.
Okay. And so if we're off a little bit, I'll generally get them both.
Good idea. More is better. So your seller has already signed a net sheet. So make sure that net sheet is handy, because when you take that offer over there, you need to remind them what they thought they would be happy with, bottom line. Does that make sense? And next, you want to help the sellers to focus on the bottom line. Don't let the sellers be offended by a low offer. Try to take the emotion out of it. I like to say, when the time is right and not come across as a smart aleck, that if they need to impress anybody, don't worry about impressing their neighbors and what the house sold for. Be more concerned about impressing their bank account. So take the emotion out of it. Just because it's a low offer, don't take it personally. Who cares what the neighbors think? What really matters is what you put in your bank account. Does that make sense, people? Okay, let's see. So one of the things I like to say is, these are sellers, let's say, that have had no offers. It's been on the market 60 days, numerous showings, open houses, and we've had people come to the open house with no offers. So we finally get an offer in the door. Seller says, my gosh, how dare you bring me this really low offer? You got to think ahead about how you're going to negotiate with your sellers, and words are powerful. I'm very, very much often I say, Mr. Seller, I know this is a low offer. I agree with you. It is low. But after all, of all the people that looked at your homes, these people like it well enough have actually written an offer. And they've tendered earnest money. And hopefully that turns their head a little bit. And it's reality. It's reality. Nobody wanted to buy your house. Nobody wanted to buy this lousy house, but these people want to. That has merit. Don't discount this offer. So you tell them if the seller, if you don't like the offer, you can always counter the offer. Well, we just want to reject the offer. We're so insulted, we just want to throw it away. Don't ever give the seller the original offer, by the way. because it ain't good for it, and you don't have one. So typically you're going to email them the offer, ask them to review it, and then when you show up or have them come to the office for the presentation of the offer, have a copy they can scratch on and scribble on and spit on and whatever they want to do with it, but keep one good copy for yourself. Remind the sellers with respect to a low offer, like I said, that they are not trying to impress their neighbors, they're trying to impress their bank account. Who cares what the house sells for as long as they made the money they wanted to make? Any comments, thoughts, input on negotiating with your seller on offers?
I agree with always countering.
Absolutely.
Like for instance, I have my one big house that we got an offer.
I was thinking about you when I did this today.
And we got lowballed.
Yeah.
And I mean, besides that, it was a horrible written offer, but I'm better than everyone else. Every time I talk about a realtor, they didn't even put earnest money down. They, but anyways, but we countered, and then they didn't even want to negotiate at all. They just wanted their offer.
They just wanted to reject it.
Yeah, so they were no, we counted, the buyers rejected.
Okay,
and then, but now the sellers have been reconsidering the first initial offer that they received. But they want to do, like an as-is and possibly a reduction in commission and some other things, to make it more cost effective for them. So we might be going back again, but if we were to reject it outright, I don't even think I could go back to this realtor and say, oh, well.
You're right, you've lost some leverage.
Right. And,
good point. So your sellers countered the first low offer.
Right, and then the buyers rejected.
Okay, so you left the window open.
Right, and I also, with that rejection, when the listing license, or when the selling licensee rejected me, I also said, well, can are your clients negotiable at all? And she just said no.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're talking about, possibly going back to them again.
Okay.
But, you never know if you're going to need to do that, and I wouldn't have been able to do that
if
they
you
would have rejected it outright.
Good point. I never thought about that. That's a good idea. Leave the doors open. Okay, number 5, preparing for negotiating with a buyer prior to making an offer. Billy and I worked with a gentleman for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks.
Lovely man, single guy, a professional. He's a geothermal engineer, so this guy isn't a lightweight. But I've never seen somebody more terrified to make a buying decision. That explains why he's still single, probably. Anyway, Billy did most of the showings of this property to this gentleman, and he wanted so badly, Billy could tell, to make an offer on one of the homes that he showed them. We showed them from A to C, from river and back. He wanted so badly to make an offer on the home that Billy showed him the other day that Billy said he actually had. He had tears in his eyes?
He was starting to get all watery eyed. We saw the house. Every home that we looked at, we were in and out in about 20 minutes. And at 50 minutes, he was just kind of staring around. He wasn't looking anymore. You could tell he was inside his head, but I mean, just breathing heavy and kind of watery eyes, just couldn't make a decision.
Literally couldn't make a decision. And so anyway, so then I took him out over the weekend. He found a house that wasn't even on MLS yet because his sister knew a neighbor and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I was able to show him that house. And kind of the same scenario. He liked it better than the other teary-eyed house. And he had his mother with him. He tends to bring mom and or sister. Of course, sister's smarter about real estate than we are. And she found everything wrong with every house, which is okay. I'd rather have mom and sister there on the beginning of showings rather than 3 days before closing, and now mom and sister insert their opinions. So I always encourage anybody besides you going to make a buying decision, let's bring them along. Because you really need the people on your side before they shoot you in the foot later. So anyway, I showed him this house, this other house, and over the weekend, and mom was there. And I knew from what Billy told me what this young man's reaction would be, that he would just become paralyzed and not able to do anything. And Billy did a wonderful job of closing on this young man too. Billy asked him to buy the house. Every single time he asked him to buy the house. So he did his job very well. So we're in the house now and 30 minutes has gone by. It's not that big a house, doesn't take that much time to see. And I knew that Billy closed well on this fellow. And Mom sat down at the kitchen table and I made a, I tell you all to ask for the order every single time. Always ask for the order. Billy had already done it probably very, very well. So I thought, he's so terrified. So I sat down at the table and I started reading the MLS stuff and didn't even look at him. And he's standing there, just standing there, getting misty-eyed again. And Mom's sitting there wondering what's going on. And I just literally made the decision, and in this particular case, because he expected me to ask him to buy, I opted not to say a word. And in a negotiation, Amanda knows this, in a negotiation, what's the answer to that sentence? You gave Billy that advice recently. That's it. The first person to speak loses.
You lost, Kathy.
What?
You lost just now.
Oh, I did. I did. So you were playing. You weren't going to answer the question. Okay. I thought you didn't know, so I didn't.
No.
Oh, you were okay. So I said nothing. I just waited, and finally he said, "So what do we do next?" I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" He said, "I think I want to buy the house." And I said, so he closed himself. I said, "Okay, well then this is what happens." And so as it all evolved, I had to close one more time on him. He said, well, I thought he was going to want to go back and write an offer right then. He said, "Well, let me talk with my loan originator and get my 90% letters." By then he knew the language. "I'll get my 90% letters and then my good faith estimates." And I told him what to get. And then I said to myself, he wouldn't come back and write that night. So I said, "Well, here's what's happening tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'm showing properties," and I was. And I said, "After that, I'm going to go home and work with my family to strike our Christmas tree," because our tree was still up. "That's my plan tomorrow, but if you want me to write an offer, I will ditch the family thing and come back to the office." He said, "Well, I'll call you." He sent me a text. He said, "I've got all my 90% letters and my pre-quals." He never said he wanted to meet. So at the end of the showing appointments, I called him. And I said, You're gonna decide how my day goes. I'm either gonna go home and strike the Christmas tree, I'm gonna go into the office and write an offer for you. What should I do?" Now, he knew these houses were selling pretty quickly. You can see that. That's part of the education process. He finally said, "I want you to go to the office. I want to write an offer." And so he came in, we wrote an offer. He made a good offer. The offer was countered and he accepted the counter. So anyway, closing on buyers. You got to read them. You have to read these buyers, and you have to be a chameleon. Everybody you deal with is different. You have to figure out what it takes to help them make a buying or selling decision. In this case, he had to step over that line himself. In spite of the fact that Billy had asked him to do so on more than one occasion, he was too afraid to do that. So I took the decision to not even ask him, and I think it made a difference. But I don't know if that would work every time. Okay, so preparation for negotiating with a buyer prior to making an offer. A, most buyers do not want to pay full price and they still want closing cost assistance even though the home is still on the market only 2 days. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah.
They all think they're in charge. They all think that every seller needs their business. We're still in a seller's market, am I right?
Yes.
Not a screaming seller's market, but we are in a seller's market. Buyers are not
Until
in
it's at
control.
6 months, right? Average.
What was
Based on
that?
market.
What was it? I'm sorry.
Sometimes the absorption rate until it's at 6 months.
Well, the price ranges vary too.
Right, but I mean overall.
Justin, that's a good question.
I think they said that it's a 6. Once it hits over 6, it's a
Oh, okay.
it's
Then
a
it's a
buyer's
buyer's
market, and if it's under 6, it's
Still a seller. That's probably true. Okay, and furthermore, and don't be surprised if your buyer thinks you want them to make a full price offer because you'll receive a greater commission. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just want me to pay full price so you make more money. Well, let's do the math. A $5,000 difference in the sales price times a 3% commission is $150. I've shown buyers that before. Mr. Buyer, I know that you think the reason I think you should offer full price is for this reason. You think it's because I probably want to make more money. Of course, we all like to make money, but let's do the math. And when they realize $5,000 is $150 to you, they're embarrassed and they get over that pretty quickly. B, the buyer interview at the beginning of your relationship, wherein you talk about briskness of our market, the average selling price, the average days on market, in their price range, et cetera, and welcome to the buyer's kit, and explain the buying process will serve you well when it's finally time to write an offer. If you take the time on the front end as a professional to have a buyer interview with them that we've talked about many times, when it's finally time to make a buying decision, by now they like you and they trust you and they understand the process. That helps a lot when you're sitting down writing an offer. C, no doubt you've shown them at least half a dozen homes, some of which have now gone into a sale pending status after only a few days on the market. At this time, they are becoming educated about our market, even subliminally educated. Makes it easier to close on them. D, the biggest motivator for the buyer is fear of loss. Agreed? Fear of loss. Another significant fear for the typical, especially first-time home buyer, is fear of paying too much for a house. This gentleman was terrified that he was also maybe paying too much. So we did market analysis. Billy did several market analyses for him to show him that the price that was being asked was a reasonable price. So remind the fearful that they're buying a quality of life, not a car. I say that a lot. Sir, I know this seems like a lot of money, but this is not a car. You're buying a quality of life for you and your family. Another good close. E, I try to do a conference call with the listing realtor and the buyer client prior to making an offer so that the buyer can hear the listing realtor push back against the notion of a low offer plus closing cost. I've been doing that for years. You are no longer the messenger. You are now a facilitator, and your buyer knows you speak truth and wisdom and that your goal is to help him successfully buy the home he wants. Okay, now let's move on to preparing for negotiation in general, and Amanda is the one that located these things. Whoops, where'd it go?
You're looking for the bullet points. It's just a different.
Oh, it's not fun. Okay, well, we're going to walk through this. Okay, let's go. Yes, jump down to. Okay, go to the page. Okay, sorry, let's keep going to the next page. Preparing for a successful negotiation where we have bullet points. Are there people? Okay, depending on the sale of a disagreement, some preparation may be appropriate for conducting a successful negotiation. Now, I don't know that presenting an offer is a disagreement, although it could potentially be. But let's go to, and there is a worksheet that came with this. Goals. What do you want to get out of the negotiation? What do you think the other person wants? Think about what your seller's bottom line is. What's important to them. Many times the seller's timing of the move is important. Think about what your buyer wants. What can the buyer live without? Like in this particular offer, we asked the seller to buy the buyer a home warranty. He was willing to throw that off, take that off the table if necessary. As it turns out, the buyer agreed to pay for the warranty, so we couldn't use that as a pawn. What happens if you don't reach an agreement with the other person? What alternatives do you have? These good or bad alternatives. In our business, if you don't reach an agreement, the buyer doesn't get the house he wants or the seller doesn't get to sell the house. So you think about what the cost is if they don't come to some agreement. It kind of changes the playing field a little bit. Does failure to reach an agreement cut you out of future opportunities? Let's jump for a minute to the other realtors that we work with, within our own company and other realtors as well. I believe that you've got to treat the other realtors with respect. You can't put them down in front of your clients. You can, among our team members, we're always talking about the realtors, but you don't want that out to your clients as much as possible. And especially with respect to the other realtors, you're going to, whatever realtor you're dealing with today, you will probably be dealing with many times over. So that relationship also needs to be nurtured so that you can determine if you can trust that realtor when they tell you, yes, I have 3 offers, or whether they really do or not. So I think we are very well advised this is a small town, and there's probably about 900 realtors that are practicing on a fairly regular basis. And there will come a day when you've been in business long enough where you know that when your name is put on the table, those realtors will respect you. And the truth is that really helps your clients a lot. Because if those realtors know that they can't pull the wool over your eyes, and that you're going to be honest with them, then it really will go a long way as you negotiate for clients later. So always cherish those relationships. There was a realtor that worked here for years at Jack White. She's no longer an active realtor, but it was always interesting to me. We were basically friends at Jack White, and we are still friends today. But for some reason, she thought when she was the realtor on the other side of the transaction that we had just gone to war. And her personality changed from like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality, because in her mind, that was the best way to progress, was to be combative on every issue, and she thought that was the right thing to do. It wasn't, and it certainly isn't today. It doesn't have to be like that. Any comments on that? Anybody? Jocelyn, what do you think?
I agree. I also think, like just what you said with, like she was your friend in person and, you know, she would go to war. I think people sometimes think, oh, this is going to be a great transaction. I'm doing it with Kathy and, you know, this will go really smooth. I want to be your best friend through this transaction. But then like they try to take advantage of you as well. So like my one with this home inspector, you should never say this to another realtor, just to let you know. But when we first initially were negotiating contracts, I thought his seller was getting a great deal. I thought my buyer was getting a great deal. She's getting the house she wants, and we're $2,000 off of asking price. First asking price between closing costs and everything. So it's a great deal for the seller. And he said, well, you know, if I make this work, you know, next time you get a listing, I want to know about it before it's active. Like, I'll do you a favor, you do me a favor. And it in the beginning put a very sour taste in my mouth. And so I knew when all this other stuff happened later on, I'm just like, no, we're not paying like negotiation. This is firm. Like, I don't know if you think you're this great negotiator, but it's just not. So yes, I would agree. Like, but it goes both ways. Don't think because they're your friend, it's going to be a smooth transaction. But don't also think because they're being friendly, it's going to be smooth either.
Good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, we had a transaction that we just closed this week, and the realtor on the other side started out very, very friendly and forthcoming, and oh my goodness, she became she became Mr. Hyde before it was over. And, you know, it didn't have to be that way, but everyone's different. But I will remember the next time if there's a listing of hers that my buyer wants to see, and I have any influence over this, you know, I will always show the property, but if the buyer likes two houses equally as well, I will probably sway him to somebody other than this realtor. So in a sense, she shot herself in the foot because we sell lots of houses. I'm not going to it's only, 10 after 2, so I don't want to bore you with reading stuff to you, but I am looking this over.
What was your reaction? How did you respond to why don't you give me a pocket listing, essentially?
I just said, okay, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Something of the sort. I already had one. That's the funny thing. I already had a listing that wasn't active that I talked about in marketing meeting for 3 weeks before it went active. Do you think I called that realtor and told him? No. No, because I don't do business that way.
Right.
And if I was going to tell him, I was going to go to Keller Williams and tell every single one of their agents, or Remax and tell every one of their agents. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it fair for everybody. I'm not going to do it. But my clients weren't ready to sell their house until I put it on the market, which is why it wasn't on the market. I don't keep listings so that they only sell to Jack White. If it goes active, it goes active for everyone at the same time.
And Billy, I think I know where you're coming from. That would have been my response. I disagree. You can't educate and train everybody. You know, we're not trying to save the world here. Oh, sure, that'll be fine. And I have no intention of following through. We're very busy,
Right.
but I'm not going to argue with him and say, well, you know, that would be unethical. I would never take the time to. I wouldn't waste the breath on someone who's going to ask that dumb question in the first
Right,
place.
and I had just come with the win away from my clients. We had verbally agreed, and I hadn't gotten a signed offer back yet either. So we had verbally agreed that it was done. I wanted to wait until I had all the paperwork before I also, you know, go, speaking ethics or something of the sort
Oh, yeah.
like that.
It's not our
The
job.
really funny thing is he was on speakerphone in front of my clients. We were all at dinner and we were negotiating. He knew I was with my clients, but he didn't know he was on speakerphone.
Ooh,
with
you're
my
supposed to
clients.
tell him.
Well, he was initially on, anyways, he was at one point on speakerphone with them and said hi to them. So he knew well aware that we were all in the same
Gotcha.
situation. And they just looked at me like, and I was just like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you're getting what you need. But, he also verbally promised a few things and then complained about it later on as well. So, like cleaning the house because the house was filthy.
Yeah, there is apparently a way of doing business out there where the other realtor will promise anything you ask him. Do you think
Oh,
your
yeah.
seller would do this? Yeah, bring me up. Do you think? Yeah, oh yeah, bring. And then you actually put it in writing and, no, we're not doing that. And that's not right.
Oh, and it's crazy how many things he promised and later.
Reneged on.
Oh, yeah. Like, we were just going out to go show. They dug a 15, I don't know what it was, they dug a 15-foot hole in their backyard and they were thinking about putting a pond in. So we've got a mound of dirt right here and a 15-foot hole right here. And of course, we're going out to showing, oh, don't pay attention to that hole. It's going to be, filled in. The house is a little dirty, but we have cleaners coming. Like acting like things were already kind of in the process of being done. Well, once we talked about putting an offer on, wait, we don't have to do these things now. Because, and I'm like, well, I'm showing the property, telling them, but you told me, yes, you're going to still have to get them done. And then this is the same deal where they failed their inspection.
So this is a realtor that overpromised just to get your buyers excited.
And he overpromised to a seller too. So he, that's why he started talking about reduction of commission. I'm like, you can reduce yours.
That's right. Sounds to me like he took a commission there.
Well, I'll see. We'll see when it goes to closing.
We don't get to see that side. We don't really know.
No, it's just closed on the buyers, the 3 days before it says their total commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I don't see those. Yes, ma'am. No, you can't. Next question.
Because the negotiated the commission.
The standard for Jack White real estate is you're taking 3%. Okay, so on listings, when we take listings, you're asking for 6, because if you take a standard 3, we give to the other side fair. Okay, if you don't ever take 4, people side pick it up.
Well, sometimes I do 7% commissions, and we keep 4 and we give 3 to the other realtor.
Oh, you do? But you never go below.
No.
If you do that. If you're
No,
taking-
no,
if you're
I would
taking
never do
higher
7
amount-
and take, no, I would,
Okay.
the other side always gets 3. Yes,
So
sir.
when we see 2.5 offered, is that saying that the state is?
Well, what we don't know, and that's a point of contention, has been for several years with some of the other companies, when we're being offered 2.5 to Jack White, by the way, it doesn't come to us directly. We'd like to believe the other realtors also taking 2.5, but we've learned that sometimes they're taking 3.5 or 4.
And there are specific realtors who have been known to do that in the past. However, yeah, I've never taken a listing because it's like with the buyer's rep. You walk in and you just close it. Now, however, my listing has been on the market for 90 days and they're about to move home and not sell their house. I will take 5%, but 5% is better than 0%. So there comes a point in time where,
Now, theoretically, you can't take a commission reduction without broker approval. So if you go to Gabe and say, can I read, he'll say no. I mean, it's going to be up to, if it's your mother, maybe he'll say yes, but typically.
I don't think he'll say no to 2.5. If it's below 2.5, that's when we're going to get.
The thing is
we
when,
don't work for less.
the thing is when a seller says, well, what's your commission? We typically say our commission is between 6 and 10%. What do you prefer? And they usually stop when you get 6%. Yeah. Any questions about that? Okay, let's jump to this form. Win-win negotiation preparation sheet. If you give, especially for new licensees, I think I've never seen this before, but I think it has a lot of value. So you got to think. Let's say you represent your buyer. So let's think about what your buyer's goals are. Let's go around the room and decide what you think your buyer's goals would be. Just what would be one buyer goal? So price to get, okay, so are they looking at homes above their price? So you're saying that your buyer's goals is to pay asking price or pay less?
I guess to maximize, to get what they want without having to. So that would be, obviously looking at something more than the total asking price.
If you're walking into a negotiation, you're basically negotiating with your buyer, you're ready to write it off. So what is your buyer's goal in terms of writing it off?
Sorry.
Does anybody comment?
What they, what their comfortable, so
Price?
it's gonna be price. So you're saying price.
Right.
Your number one.
So he, so price would be the good answer, right? The answer would be the goal you would have the buyer. Well, we're actually negotiating now. We're ready to write an offer for the buyers.
So we've already found our house. Like Kathy said, you've already found our house in our right neighborhood, it's our 50 years. So, you know,
That would be a point of negotiation. So that's important to you. That's one of your buyer's goals. What would be one of your buyer's goals?
well, I'll let you know. So, maybe closing by a certain date.
Okay, a certain date to close. Maybe they want to close in a month rather than the typical 60 days.
Right, but sometimes, we're negotiation powers and like, you know, faster.
So short closing time, maybe. Really?
Any modifications or like cosmetic kind of things?
So in other words, your buyer would want them to paint the house.
Right.
You would say that for, maybe not painting the house, like the cosmetic.
Let's say that children's, let's say that the children's, let's say the children's wall is purple.
Right.
And you're selling to a guy. So maybe one of his goals is, would the seller paint the children's bedroom, right?
Or the whole house?
That, well, like Jocelyn said, that's it. I mean, unless you make a 10,000 over list off, that's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah, I painted my entire condo.
But was that because somebody asked you to do that?
Well, yes,
A buyer asked you to do
the
that?
buyer. And
You
I
got your price, you got your price.
I sold my condo, so I agree with that.
Okay. She's a bottom line thinker. She didn't get emotional. What would you, what's a goal you would want?
Look at that.
They're like,
All
somebody has to say it.
Yeah, someone's gotta.
Somebody's got to say it, you're right.
Oh, man, took mine.
It's okay, Billy did.
Okay, so no matter what home inspection says, your buyer wants those things fixed. Is that because your buyer's like an 80-year-old lady and she can't fix anything? Here.
All right. I'm thinking of the plan I have now, and what it is, big one is. I'm not sure. Short for things that haven't already been mentioned.
Maybe they want, maybe your buyer needs to do a road project. You gave us one. Oh, there's lots of ones.
But I was thinking about also one. My buyer wants to pay $1,000.
They can afford what they were looking at, but they prefer not to. Okay, so here's the question. If your buyer pays, so if the buyer wants to offer 5,000 less than list and the buyer pay all
I'm gonna also read out this parent speaking.
Any comments on that other than Jocelyn, on that comment? She just said, what's better for your buyer in general, for the buyer to pay full price and have the seller pay the closing costs for the next Yes, in my opinion, cash is king. And if you finance a home over 30 years and the difference is $5,000, we learned recently with our client, $5,000 at 4% interest financed over 30 years is $24 a month. Okay, so why would your buyer not be willing to pay $24 more a month if the seller pays $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000? Closing costs are cash hard to make. He works hard to get that $7,000. Wouldn't it be better if he could keep that in his bank account and make $24 a month? Yes. It's amortized over 30 years. Oh, your buyer lives there. So that's what you have to think.
Closing costs are probably the number one thing that also for other things, ask for a friend to get up front or not get up front.
Yeah.
Sometimes sellers think buyers have to simply mean buyers are up front, some kind of multiple.
Another thing too, when your seller says, oh my gosh, they've asked me to pay, $5,000 in closing costs. What I've done is I say, yes, they have, I'm sorry about that. That's typical in our market today. And if you look at the net sheet, Mr. Seller, we already accounted for the possibility of that. Now it happened and you were okay with that bottom line. Remember, you signed it right here. You don't have to be heavy-handed, but really it's a business. So help them see it from a business point of view. But if you say, yes, I know 5,000 is a lot of money, but these buyers are putting 5% down on a $300,000 house, which is at $15,000, because your seller thinks, well, I'm having to I'm having to clear everything, the commission and the closing costs for myself and not the buyer. What's the buyer rate? Okay, trades, going around the room. What can your buyer take off the table in order to make a transaction? There you go. Closing costs are taken off. Your buyer wants to go.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly the last time.
It's okay, no. This is your buyer. Your buyer made it.
That's the first one.
Well, of course, that's the whole point. Take it off the table. Just.
Even with closing date.
Closing date, like this.
30 days, 30-day closing date.
Maybe the seller doesn't need to you, so they're going to $100,000.
Right. If the seller will take their low offer, the buyer will extend the reporting date out. Yeah.
Or
Everything's negotiable.
or
Or, occupancy after. Right. Does anybody other than Jocelyn know what happens in an occupancy after closing? In other words, if the transaction has closed and recorded, the seller's going to live there for 30 days. What happens with that? How does that get? Police?
Police.
Oh. Police throw them out. No, we don't want a lease. We want a lease. A lease is typically exchange of money or landlord-tenant obligation. We want that money you want to pay an occupancy. With that, an occupancy.
Is that the same?
So you have to be careful because the lender will not allow your buyer not to move into that property. They got to move in that property within 60 days, I think, Jocelyn. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
it has to be.
So in other words, if you negotiate where the seller stays with 3 months, the lender will need to know because this loan was based on a owner occupancy situation. And if they're not moving in within 60 days, it's something looks like it was a fraudulent transaction. And the buyer really was just trying to buy a property as an investor, but actually only get in with minimal down payment. But anyway, yeah, we can do it. Back to my question. What has to happen if there's going to be an occupancy after closing?
goes into the super inspection? Because what if the buyer or the sellers that are not out of their sold home decide to throw a rager and
I mean,
It
it's
is
the,
risk.
it is risk you're taking. The sellers generally speaking want them something in the store, in order to, they're also paying like their daily rate to like be there as well.
That's the whole point.
They are taking risk. It is risk for the occupancy and, occupancy hours that they're there. Anything can happen. Yeah. But generally, they require insurance and things like that, additional.
Exactly. The seller will pay rent to the buyer. Pay rent. And there's going to be a document, it happens with forms, dotted i's, dotted t's crossed. Okay, so trades. Moving along, what would be a good trade?
oh, a good trade.
What is your, buyers ask for some things, but what are the things they're willing to trade in order to get the most they want?
Well, if you'll go ahead and give us a full price offer, then sure, we'll okay with you looking at the cost of it.
That's a good trade. Really want to be a good trade.
Rather than a contingent offer, my buyer is able to carry both.
So a contingent offer was submitted, contingent on the sale of his buyer's house. In order to make the transaction work, somehow these buyers want to step up to the plate, and they will, they can, and they will. They make it work just because
I'm thinking if the seller doesn't want to take all that furniture with them, say, look at the furniture on a bill of sale, it just becomes your problem, you can do with it what you wish, but I'm moving out of state, I can't take it with me, and I don't want to deal with the hassle of removing it, so go take possession of that on a bill of sale, and then we'll knock some off.
everything is good. Everybody has goals, wants and needs. And let's go here. Relationship. I think the relationship here is well, that's one thing. We talked about treating other realtors with respect, or because we're the same small pool of professionals. But you've got a relationship with your seller and your buyer that you don't want to damage, which is probably even more important. So at no time would you ever, you've got to be careful how you say what you're always going to say to your seller and buyer clients, and preserve that relationship. Things closing should occur at a certain day and certain times, and it's hard for us to explain to her that we just can't control all of that. But we have to be careful. You know, it's frustrating for us. Our demands are impossible demands. We don't want to ruin that relationship. So we work hard at keeping her under control. Don't lose control of your clients without insulting her or appearing to be disrespectful. So that's why we now have to become board brokers. What we say, it's not what we say, it's how we say it that matters. You have to think how to deal with that individual. What's their hot button? Be a chameleon. What do they need to hear? Everything else to be true, of course. Expected outcome. Whenever I write an offer for a buyer client, and I know there's a weakness in the offer, the moment we write the offer and we sign the offer before I send it to the other vendor, I will say to the buyer client, this is a decent offer. I want you to expect the fact that they're going to push back on the closing cost. They may not want to pay the warranty. I want you to be prepared for that so that you know what you want to do when that happens. If you don't prepare your people for the outcome that may not be perfect, again, when they find out the less perfect outcome, you might lose control of it. So think ahead as to what might be sideways.
If you see you do that with almost every offer, right, full price,
And I do that with sellers. And I say to my clients constantly, let me give you worst case scenario. It hasn't gone sideways yet. Worst case scenario is fine. You're going to get sick of hearing me say, Mr. Seller, Mr. Buyer. You're going to get sick of hearing me say, worst case scenario, but I'd rather you know what could possibly go wrong and hope it's better than me not to have told you what could go sideways. We're the professionals. It's our job to educate them on what might go sideways. It has everything to do with price range.
What were you talking about, like, what it, average cost of buyer? Well, well, the average is, I think, 3% for a buyer and 3.5 for, not 3.5, 9.5 for a seller.
Okay,
No.
your seller's typical cost to sell would be the commission plus another 2%. I use 2% at 300,000. Yeah, so it's gonna be 6 or whatever plus 2. That's typical. That's what I tell sellers. And then the buyer's cost, which you may be asking the seller to pay, could run, again, depending on price, about 4%, 3.5 to 4%. Higher price range is 3.5, lower about 4%. And if you prepare them for that, you've covered most of your bases. It's typically not that bad. Oh, I'll be right back. Yeah. I'm sorry, you got too quick. Here you go. Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. And I do a little spread like that. Because with the numbers I use, invariably I'm a little on the high side. And I want to be on the high side. I want to be on the high side. Typically, yeah. Yeah, there's some, I like, these are weasel words. Typically, seller will consider, don't overpromise. Consequences of winning or losing, well, it's pretty simple in our business. They're either going to get the house they want or they won't, right? Or they'll sell their house or they won't. And possible solutions, if they don't get the house they want, they move on to something else. If they've become very well educated, and in the process, if you've handled it correctly, they respect you and they trust your judgment. Any comments or thoughts about any of that? Thank you, guys. My pleasure.
So much to go over.
Alrighty, we got a 2:30 to 3:30 meeting upstairs. That's all yours.
Today, yeah.
No, you don't. You're no, this is Carl's home.
I thought you said, no, you're good.
No, I did
Yeah.
too. I just had my heart broken.
Yeah. Same person too.
So you want that cookie now? Yeah, I'm not just gonna go get cookie. I'm kind of red of the keto, but like that was the original. It was like between keto and a salad. This morning I went and got my salad and I ate it. I'm pretty bendy in the trenches and I didn't do anything to sit there.
I went and did my taxes in H&R Block.
Oh,
Okay, and I did one that I had to mail in. And he didn't tell me I had to sign it. He gives me the paperwork, puts it in an envelope. I said, thank you. Boom. And I pay with my credit card,
I have a vegetarian.
and the credit card machine fell.
It's becoming less and less.
Okay, I'll come
I'm
back.
chicken back in my diet.
Go to the post office, mail it,
Still not okay.
come back to pay it. He says, did you sign it? I go, why'd you give me it all folded in an envelope? And you didn't tell me that I needed to sign it. No, I didn't sign it. I just mailed it. I gotta get back to the post office now. So I went back to the post office. I said, give me my letter back. I did it back, opened it up, signed it, sealed it with clear tape, mailed it again, went back to H&R Block. And I go, did you charge the card yet? And she said, you know what?